Well, I've had this file in my desk drawer uh, since 1987. It contains my correspondence with Sam and also some handwritten notes of mine in which how I got uh, to communicate with him, how I got in touch with him. So I pulled all of that out and looked at it. And yeah, I've got his letter to me about the board and all of that good stuff.
Wow.
At the time, this I mentioned 1980, in the 1980s, I was in charge of our family construction company. So I had a law degree and I was house counsel, but then I became head of the construction company and like that. And so I got a call from one of Sam's lawyers, Helen Johansson. And she knew that I was in the construction area, and Sam was looking for somebody. I think initially he was looking for a full-time maintenance person that could help fix up his buildings and et cetera. And she was very sort of defensive. And she said, well, you know, he's had this reputation, but he's really a very nice man. And, you know, if you would call him, you know, contact him, it would be great. I said, don't worry. I know who he is. He came from the island of Rhodes, where my grandparents came from. Not to worry. So I gave him a call. He was in Soap Lake. And he explained to me that what he was looking for and so on. But specifically, he had a problem. He owned this little bungalow, this cottage on the western shore of Mercer Island. It was a waterfront. And he said, my neighbors have called me and said somebody broke in. It was all boarded up. The windows and doors were boarded up with plywood and so on. And he lived there until he left for Soap Lake. And so probably, I'm guessing, you know, 10, 15, maybe 20 years, it's been sitting there. Because the neighbors called and they said that somebody's broken in and they're squatters. And they're, you know, they go in there and they're, you know, it's really not a good thing. I need somebody to go down there and put the boards back up and secure it. And I said, well, great. I'll go over there and take a look and see what's involved. I said, and whatever it costs, just send me the bill. Not a problem. Just, you know, whatever it costs, doesn't matter. Just, you know, okay, fine. So I drove over to Mercer Island and he told me where it was, and I driving along the North Shore Road there, and I'm looking at just nothing but brambles and blackberry bushes and overgrown stuff. And I see this little chain across an area that looks like had been a driveway at one time. So I parked the car, get out, and I follow this deer path underneath all the blackberry bushes down to the water. And I finally, and then on the way down, I see there was like a big building there, and I look in and peek through the plywood cracks and stuff, and there are these old trucks from World War II, these big Willys, you know, Dodge Willys 4-wheel drive trucks, and they're all dilapidated and like that. So I keep on going down, and I find the house, and this is sort of what it looked like. I don't know if you can see the picture. And so I went there and I went in, and sure enough, the plywood had been ripped off the doors, and it looked like somebody had been there, you know, not too long ago. And I look in, and it was like going back in a time machine to 1948 or 1940. Everything was there. The couch was there. Even the countertops, there was an old orange juice squeezer on the countertop with a big handle, the chrome top and green. And then, and in the living room, there was this gigantic cabinet, wooden cabinet, and it had a little tiny screen in it. And it was a TV set. And it was huge, but the screen was like this big. And it had been smashed. But it was just like like really, it was a time machine. I mean, just walk back in and you were 40 years ago, just everything was there. So I took some pictures and stuff, and then talked to my folks, and oh, he had a garage over there too, and there was an old Volkswagen that had been parted out. The engine was missing. It was an old Volkswagen Bug. The rear window was a little tiny one like this, and the turn signals were the kind that lift up from the side. You pull the thing and the thing goes up and left. Mm-hmm. Anyway, went back, talked to my folks, told them the situation, showed them pictures, and I said, the only way we're going to get plywood down there is by boat. And so we actually rented a barge, brought the plywood in, fixed it up, took some pictures, sent it to Sam. And so that's how I got to know Sam, is through that experience. And so we communicated. We either called, I talked to him several times, and then also we wrote letters back and forth, and he told me about what he wanted to do with the foundation. And he said, in one of the letters, and so he said there's supposed to be 10 trustees. He's got 13 people on the list, but he said, I'd be very happy for you to be one of the trustees and administrators. And at that time, when he passes away, only 10 will be required to administrate the foundation. If for any reason that you're unable, there will be 4 extra choices, so on. The reason that we have survived for says, I sure would like to put your name on the list. So he says, please let me know. For the reason that we have survived for 2,000 years is because among us, there were Hebrews like you and I, and that we believe that we, and in capital letters, we are our brother's keeper. Otherwise, we would have disappeared from the face of the earth. God bless you. Very truly, Sam Israel. So he wrote it, and then he attached his little outline of the stuff he wanted to do. I wrote him back a day or two later, said I would be honored and thrilled to have my name on the list as a trustee. So that was really my communication with Sam and how I got involved with him. I think just the communication with him, he was very he was very detailed oriented, knowledgeable guy. I just got to appreciate his sense of values, especially towards Jewish people and Israel, and to a great extent, what he was looking for in Israel, archaeology and nature and wildlife and that type of thing. So I guess those were the kinds of things that I took away from that. When Sam was a young man, he fell in love with a young lady. And in fact, when we first started the foundation, Eddie and Marguerite invited me over to their house, my wife and I over to their house for dinner. And he brought out these old 8mm films that Sam had taken. And it showed this little beach house, this bungalow that I had worked on. And it was all nice and clean, new. And there was Sam, and in a bathing suit, and he was buff. And he really was, slender, good looking guy, chiseled face. And another man that was with him was an attorney who was one of my mentors, Al Franco. And he looked good too. I mean, I knew Al when he was an older man, and but Al looked great. And there were 2 ladies there in bathing suits, and one of them was this lady that Sam had eyes for, and she was really a good looker. Olive skin, dark hair. Anyway, so I saw these films, and Eddie says he wanted to marry her, but her father refused because Sam was not a professional. He wanted his daughter to marry a professional. And so he was heartbroken. They never got married. Fast forward many, many years, and I'm doing a transaction as a lawyer, a real estate transaction with some clients. And one of the clients is the grandnephew of the lady that Sam fell in love with. And I knew the names. So I said, Tom, did you know that your aunt, great aunt, I guess it is. It was a great aunt. Yeah, great aunt. Yeah. Anyway, maybe, no, it was aunt, great aunt. Fell in love with Sam Israel, but your grandfather, I guess it is, or her father, refused to allow the marriage. And he said, he refused to allow marriage to Sam Israel? I don't believe it. If he were alive today, I'd kill him. I think Eli Gunauer said it best. You think it's easy to give away money, and it's not. And he said, you got to give, but with your heart, but also you have to give with your head. And I think he was spot on by saying that. And so one of the things that, we did early on is that we have a limited source of funds. We can't solve all the problems and fill all the buckets because we just don't have the funds. So let's try to be strategic and give where it will make a difference. And so that's really a philosophy that I take to heart. And thank God, our bucket has gotten a lot larger. We're able to do more, but again, we still have to do it wisely. And that's always been in the back of my head, is that you have to do it wisely so that you really can make a difference. Because you can just waste it away. I mean, and go down the rat hole, and you never know whether whatever you've done is good or bad or not. So this has been an incredible journey and experience, and I don't think I would ever trade the last 27 years of working with the Samis board and foundations for anything. It's been one of the seminal features of my career, my life. It really has been.